We are live. Welcome to my live, Cerelia.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining. I'm really excited to share this conversation and just the journey that you've been on since we started working together until the end. And I'm really just so inspired by you.
Thank you.
You did this program while you were in medical school, which is just so impressive. So I definitely want you to share your journey with that, and then the exciting research that you've been doing that is just really awesome. But before we dive into all of that and your story, how are you doing today? How was your exam?
I'm well. My exam was hard as usual. But I got through it. I passed it, so I'm happy about that.
Of course you did. Of course.
But yeah, otherwise I just like trying to catch up on other stuff since then. So I'm doing good.
Yes. I'm always so amazed with just how much you're able to do. And yeah, so we'll get into that in a little bit because I'm sure you have some great tips on how you've been able to just balance medical school and everything else going on in your life. But can you tell our listeners just a bit about yourself and also the research that you've been working on and why it's so important to you?
Okay, so my name is Cerealia, like she said. I'm currently a first-year medical student at VCU School of Medicine in Richmond, Virginia. The research I'm working on, I'm really interested in helping minorities become medical students and become physicians overall. So I want to create programs that help minorities get into medical school. And one thing I realized is that the MCAT is a big struggle. So I want my research to focus on like how to help minorities overcome the MCAT. And I want to use the details I get from that research or the results from that research and ultimately create foundations that are programs that help minorities get in, like pass the MCAT and then get into medical school. So there's different little things that affect people from getting into medical school, but just one thing based on my journey and then based on journeys of others around me is that the MCAT is a big struggle. So first research, get the results, and then hopefully some programs to help them overcome that.
Gotcha. Okay. So what are some of have you found anything in just your own experience so far, with the MCAT? Like what's something that has become apparent to you that is kind of an issue when it comes to like minorities being able to get into medical school? Have you been able to like see anything from your own experience or?
So like from my experience, after I got out of, well, while I was in undergrad, I didn't have, I would say like the full direction that I could have had going into like, when I say direction, I mean like mentors, like knowing enough people who are in medical school that can kind of guide me and lead me through things like the MCAT application processes. And I think that happened to like a lot of my friends as well. Like, of course, there's little things your college can help you do, but like a lot of people can fall through the cracks. And I think minorities are like, they're like a subset of people that unfortunately that happens to. And I think with the MCAT too, once we graduated from college, a lot of my friends, we had to start working. We had to start paying bills. Like you didn't have time to study for the MCAT. You didn't have the money to pay for the MCAT. That's a whole nother story because it's like $300 per exam. So, So I just think there's like little things that hinder minorities from like being able to pass versus like the population as a whole. I think especially like when I heard like the average MCAT last year for like the whole population was 512, and then for minorities it was like a 506 or a 507. So to me, like I know we're just as smart, we go to the same universities. I think it's just finding like what's the difference between like why we can get as high of a score than the entire population. And I don't want to assume, I kind of want to do the research and figure out like why that's the case, and then use that to kind of feel like whatever programs I start.
Ooh, girl, you give me chills right now. I'm just so excited for all of the work that you're doing and all of the good that you're going to be doing in the community and future generations to come. You're really making the change that you want to see, and I just love that so much. So yeah, that's exciting. So thank you for sharing that. That's really cool. So when we started working together, which was like back in June, seems like eons ago. You were working on a few different goals. You were working on building a better relationship with yourself, with God, and just personal relationships in your life. So can you just share with our listeners just like what your journey has been from beginning to end, and like just the transformations that you have seen unfold?
When I started looking for someone initially because I was just in a really bad place. Like I knew I wanted to start medical school. Well, I was starting medical school, but like I knew I wasn't in the right headspace to do so. For example, like my personal relationships, like with some of my family members and my friends weren't where they needed to be. Like there was stress from there. And then just internally, like the way I thought, like I was being really negative in terms of like my outlook on life. So like I was so grateful for the program because it kind of like, I guess, recalibrated myself, like the way I was thinking, especially with like our deep breathing, our meditations, things like that. Whoops. You know what I'm saying? Just kind of like help get all the juggling pieces in my life kind of just like in order. And then like, especially starting with myself and like the way I think and the way I process things. So that's been really helpful for me.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think, building a stronger relationship with yourself, it just becomes like a ripple effect into all of the other areas of your life. So that's really cool to hear how that unfolded. It's like I can only see from the outside, the other side of the computer screen. So it's kind of cool to hear, what was actually happening during that time. So it's really cool. I know there was a session, and I didn't tell you this, by the way, at the time when this happened, but there was a session we had where you talked about your limiting beliefs around basically like black tax, where it was this feeling of needing to overcompensate in your, once you started medical school, it was this feeling of like, I need to overcompensate for this like negative stereotype around Black people and like needing to make sure that the work is perfect. It's nothing, there's no mistakes. Like I need to dress really nice. I need to have my hair perfect. And I was so angry. And I think because like all of the things were happening too at the time, like it was just like, oh, I'm like, I hate that she feels this way. And I'm like, no, I can't let her feel this way. So how are you? So I was definitely lit up that day, just so you know. I didn't tell you, but what were you able to do to overcome those limiting beliefs that we talked about that day in that session? And how were you able to shift into really embracing your authenticity as the intelligent, beautiful Black woman that you are?
So I feel like first off, I kind of could tell that not like you were like really upset, but like you were really passionate. You're like, oh no. I think we like wrote it down and you had me like riff it up. But
I was like, burn it, Cerelia, burn those thoughts. Oh, you're enough.
I know, but I feel like it was really necessary. Like, like I feel like I really needed that like fire because I really did feel that way. Like it was really hard to like medical school is stressful enough. So going in feeling like you have to be perfect on top of that was just so unnecessary. Like that was putting on myself, But I think what kind of like walked us through that is like I wrote down the limiting belief.
Yeah.
And when we kind of created evidence like around it, like we created like another empowering statement and then like all the evidence that we created around it. Cause then I was like, oh wait, but like we're all students. They know we're in the same school. So we're all qualified to be here. Like, so all the little statements we were putting with it to make sure that like I understood the empowering statement and that I knew like I was more than enough and I was capable of being there. Like, I think that was like super helpful. Yeah. So like now I'm in a place of like, I remember my empowering statements. I remember my evidence. So that's really helpful.
And I think reminding yourself, right? Because sometimes it's not enough to just come up with the empowering belief and the evidence. The limiting beliefs might still pop up time to time. So I think it's almost like to train your mind to believe it, and eventually the old belief just starts to fade away. So I think sometimes people think, well, the old limiting belief still keeps popping up, and I'm like, yeah, well, you've had that like your whole life, so it's gonna take some time to fade away. So.
But I recognize them like much quicker now. Like when I'm in like doing group work or I'm in class and like I participate, answer questions, I think like when it tries to creep up, like I can like target it, think of my empowering statement, think of my evidence. So those are one of my favorites.
That's the key to really, I think, taking the power back, because we can't control, random thoughts can just pop up throughout our head throughout the day, right? But what we can control is if we listen to it and how we choose to respond to it. And so I love that you said like you're able to just catch it now. And so that's really what it's about. It's not so much like, is it going away completely? It's like, okay, when it comes up, I'm shutting it down. Like it's not listening to
not needed anymore.
Exactly. So that's awesome. I love that. And I love that you're like, I knew you were pissed. I'm like, oh man.
I can sense your passion. Like she was like, no, rip it up. I was like, okay, yeah. I needed to though. Yeah.
Yes. Good. I'm glad you felt that passion through the computer screen. Good.
Mhm.
um, so I was speaking of classmates and just, knowing you're enough to be there. I know we had also talked a little bit about rejection and just creating new rules around rejection and failure, not making it so easy for others to make you feel rejected. And so what has been your journey with that, and just again, just accepting that you're enough, you're, good enough to be there, and that you're not going to allow others to make you feel, or make it so easy for you to feel rejected. How have you been able to overcome that?
Yeah, like for me, like, well, I don't know how it all started, but like for some reason, like over time, I guess it was really easy for me to feel rejected by people. Like once I see a facial expression, or once I feel like I answered something wrong, I automatically felt like, oh, I shouldn't be here. Oh, like they don't want to like study with me or something like that. And like when I think back on it, it sounds crazy, but like that's like when you're in the moment, I guess it feels like really like I can't find a word, but I guess it like
Feels very real to you.
yeah, like it feels very strong in that moment. But like overcoming that was definitely when we decided to make the new rule, which is if they don't tell me that like we don't want you around, we don't want to be with you, then it's not a rejection. And I think that helps because I know for me, like I go through like I feel differently at different parts of the day. So like what I'm projecting onto someone else might not necessarily what I feel towards them, it's just more so how I feel in that moment. So even when we made that rule up, it was like, okay, like this person may have made this facial expression, but they didn't like actually communicate like this is what they're feeling. This is, and like, I guess for me it was assumptions. I was always assuming like this is what this person is thinking, and I'm not a mind reader. So
Yes.
the rule kind of like really helped me kind of get out of that mindset.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, just by accepting a new rule. Yeah, I'm always talking about how what we respond to most of the time is based on our perception of reality versus reality itself, right? And unfortunately, our perception can really not serve us a lot of the times, right? Because we're assuming
No.
the worst.
Mm-hmm.
That fear that's popping up to protect us, to make us feel safe. And, it's like, you're gonna die, so just believe that these people are against you, and it's like, wait
Yeah.
a minute, maybe I should give these people the benefit of the doubt, and like maybe they're thinking the same thing as me, like, oh, what if she doesn't want to be my friend? And so yeah, so I
Mhm.
love that new rule of like, unless they actually tell me, like, yeah, that kind of just nips it in the butt right there. So yeah.
Mm. And even so, like we were talking about like the what ifs. I think we always did the what if scenarios. So it's like, oh, so I answer a question wrong, like what happens then? Like, oh, they might not want to study with me. And then like what happens then? It's like, oh, like nothing.
Right, and like,
So
yeah,
what?
I mean, exactly, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
So I like that one too. Yeah.
A lot of the things that we worry about, yeah, it's like when you really think about it, it's like, okay, if worst case scenario that did happen, you're still going to be alive, you're still going to be okay, you still have
Mhm.
the capability to be a successful person regardless, so it's all good.
It's 100 other classmates to study with. Like, you're
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, so true. So through all of this, so I know we went through so many strategies, and you've mentioned a few of them. What would you say out of all of the strategies that you use to manage your emotional states? What was your favorite? What really allowed you to have the biggest breakthrough with your goals that you were working on?
When it came to like time management things, I think I really liked the Whoop app. Like I liked like thinking about like what can go wrong and then like what you're gonna do, especially when it came to like my weight loss goals and things like that. Like, oh, okay, so they took you to I think we had like a meal for Chick-fil-A, so instead of getting this you can just get the sandwich and a water. So I think that really helps like making contingency plans for like for like things that could go wrong throughout the day. So that was one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And then meditation and deep breathing. Just kind of like, especially before exams, I use it too. Just kind of like center myself, like calm myself down before I start, like so I'm not in a frenzy before I do anything. That helps. Um, and I think my third favorite would be like what happens then. I find myself using that one often.
Yeah.
Like, or what does that mean? I think that's the phrase.
Yes.
So I find myself using that one very often. Like, oh, this person doesn't want to, like, let's say, for example, doesn't want to talk to me. Okay, what does that mean? And it's like, oh, nothing.
Right.
Like, you don't really matter, like it doesn't make a difference.
Right. It's like, okay, they don't want to talk to me. Okay, cool. That's thanks for showing me who you really are. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that because knowing what meaning you're placing on things is really, it's becoming more self-aware, and also what meanings we place on things determines what we end up doing, And so
Yeah.
I think being able to catch that and say like, okay, so then what does that mean? It really just helps you to like reframe it really quickly. So it's not, you know, taking any power away from what you do next.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's
And
awesome.
before it really was, yeah. So
Yeah. I mean, and it's like it sounds so like simple when you say it, but I feel like if you're not aware of that, like it really can ruin your entire day.
no, it really used to. Like, I would go to class and someone make a facial expression. It's like, but I try. Like, I study this all night. Like, I really tried to, what I'm saying? Like, it would like really hinder my whole day after that. Cause like that one scenario, like playing a loop, So breaking out of that was really necessary.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. I love that. So your schedule got really crazy kind of like midway through the program and once you started medical school, and I was like, oh no, we're losing her. And then you somehow just like pushed through, you just so gracefully, like you just hopped back on that saddle and you were, crushing your workout goals and health goals and just doing it so effortlessly. So how are you able to balance medical school, my homework assignments, because I know I was giving you some assignments to work on too. I was like, and here you go, that vision board. And how are you able to balance all that and family obligations?
Oh my gosh, I have a schedule and it's so bad. I feel like I still need to talk to you about it because I feel like
do we need to pencil you in for another session?
I already have a session, by the way. So like, I feel like every hour is accounted for, like, no lie. From the time I wake up, like, to the time I go to sleep, like, every single hour, like, oh, it's okay, it's 8:00, it's time to exercise. Like, okay, it's 9:00, it's time to, like, do Bible study with my sister. Like, every single hour is, like, dedicated to something. And then, of course, like, things happen, like, especially with family obligations, like, I kind of have to tweak it. But once I know, like, okay, this hour is dedicated to this, like, no, I'm studying right now. Like, this is this is what this hour is for. Like, I can catch you at 4, but at 2, this is what this is about. So like, even with your homework, I feel like I have to schedule in time for your homework. So it's like, okay, from 10 to 10:45, like, I'll kind of go over like all my like life coach stuff right before I go to bed. So like the happiness advantage, reading that, any like practices, like any meditation practices you gave me, like I'll always do it like between like 10 to 10:45. So
Wow.
yeah.
I love it, but you have to be with your time, especially. I mean, I think, well, there's a saying. It's like if you want to get something done, give it to a busy person, because you're just like, okay, whoop, put it in that little time slot. There it is. There you go. So I love that so much. Yeah, because I'm like, wow, this is like hashtag goals right here. And I'm like, all my other clients who are not in medical school, you have no excuse. So I'm just kidding. I'm like, you guys better be doing your assignments.
So yeah, after that 1 week where everything fell apart, like I knew I joined the call, like I did nothing.
Yeah, you're like, I'm like, it's okay, it's all good. Yeah, I'm definitely not the type to be like, shame on you.
I know, but that helped though, because like I came back, it's like I read 1 page of the happiness and meditation. Like, you're like, yay, progress. It's like, oh, that's good. That's good. I did a page instead of like, oh man, I did a page. So
I'm all about, like as long as you're continuing to progress, it's all good. Now, if it was just stagnant and nothing was happening, I'd be like, hey, we need to have a conversation. Let's talk about this. But you were actually you had 1 week where it was like a little bit less, and then you just got back on it and you were still moving forward. So
yeah.
It's all good. Yeah. You did an amazing job. Seriously. Like,
thank you.
And all of these transformations that happened. So I'm super proud of you.
Thank you.
What's next in your journey? What can we look forward to seeing from Cerelia in this journey with the research and, maybe in the next year or so? What's next chapter?
So for me, first off, I want to kick off the research. That's taking a minute. But like with school and everything else, like trying to figure out, like I know we were talking, still trying to figure out like the best mentor for me. A side note, I actually found like a really good program. I could talk to you like offline about that. But just
The best way, hold up, go back some. You said the best what for you?
like program, like they do it through the school. It helps people who want to like serve underserved communities. It kind of like the direct pipeline through that. So like in our third and fourth years, you have to do like clerkships or rotations through like the hospitals and stuff. With this program, you do it directly in like underserved communities, which I think is really cool. And they have a lot of mentors for like research for people who want to do research with minorities and underserved. So I was like, oh my gosh, like this is perfect for me. So that's what I'll say, like sidebar, like I'll talk to you later. Like I potentially found some mentors for my research.
Okay.
So well, so first off is like just finding that, finishing that. I also want to kind of start getting in the fluid motion of my programs. I know they have SNMA at my school, so hopefully like gain a leadership position or two with that because they have like a MAPS.
Okay.
Claiming it is on my vision board.
Yes.
They have a MAPS liaison that works with like undergraduates, especially HBCUs, and kind of helping juniors and seniors like go straight to medical school. Of course, those who want to go straight to medical school after college is finished. So in the next year or so, I think that's what I'm going to be focusing on: the research, SNMA, and then of course just like school and getting good grades.
Yeah, that would be important.
Yeah.
So how many years do you have left until you're done?
So some people will tell you like med school is 4 years, which it is, because after I'm in my first year, so 2024 I graduate, I'll be considered a doctor. Yay.
Okay.
But for me, it's like much longer because you still have residency, and residency varies depending on like the specialty you choose.
Yes.
So whether you want to do like emergency medicine or pediatrics or internal medicine, residency can take like 2 to 5 years depending on what you want to do.
And what's your specialty?
So right now I'm thinking about emergency medicine, but I'm also looking at like emergency medicine with like a top specialty in like pediatrics, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
Like pediatric emergency. So
Ooh, girl, so you can be doing like emergency C-sections and stuff like that. That's the first thing that came to my mind. I don't even
that's like for like OBGYNs and stuff like that. But I've considered that too, like being an OBGYN. But emergency, like I'll just be in the emergency room. All their kids, they'll bring all their kids to me and I'll take care of them. I'm guessing like asthma attacks and like trauma, like they fell down, like they broke their arm, like things like that.
Yeah. Okay. That's awesome. So many things just came to my mind at once while you were talking, and questions that I wanted to. Well, first, what's on my mind right now is your vision board. I was thinking about your vision board. Did you ever finish that vision board, or is it halfway done?
No, it's like I did more on it. So it's like 3/4 of the way done. I just have to put my name on top.
I'm wondering if there's any way we could see the vision board, or is that going to be too hard for you to like maneuver? Is like
it's legit. It's super big and it's 3/4 done. I think if I turn off the camera and then take you and show you, do you want me to do that?
Okay. Yeah, sure. That works. Yeah, block your camera. Yeah, so we don't have to see everything. But I wanted to see where it's at, because I was like, when you showed me yours, I'm like, ooh, I'm getting ideas for mine when I update my vision board. So that's really cool.
I was happy, like I was able to do like be creative with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really creative. I was like, when I saw it, I was like, oh wow, okay, I need to step up my my vision board.
Okay, can you see it?
Yeah, that's really cool.
Ooh, wait, hold on. Don't mind my hamburger.
Done. Last time you showed it to me, it was like only a quarter done.
I just need to put my name. Like you see that space, like in the brown space.
Yeah.
My name is. That's the only thing missing. My name is gonna go right there. So it's like Cerelia's vision.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Yeah. Amazing. Sharing. I just wanted to. That was just my own little thing that I just needed to. I'm like,
No, I know you asked me to post it in the Facebook page.
yes, yes, please do once it's done. That would be amazing.
Yes.
I would love that.
So as soon as I put my name on it, I'm gonna go ahead and post it, so in case anyone wanted like any new ideas or anything like that, I'll
Yeah,
post it there.
yeah, that's really cool. So is it like you did like a cork, oh my gosh, can't speak, cork board.
Mm-hmm.
That was like a tongue twister for me. And did you just tape it or did you just put like little tacks on
Like little, yeah, like tacks, like little push pins.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Cute.
Thank you.
Well, okay, so I wanted to ask you, because I was remembering what the question that popped in my mind was, how are you able to, so I think you said you ended up finding a mentor that was of color once you got into your program, right? So like, was that
Mhm.
hard for you to do, or did you feel like that like was pretty accessible to you when you started your program?
I would say 50-50. I feel like it was difficult to find someone that was of color, that was like had the same interests as me. I feel like that part was difficult. The reason why I would say 50-50 is because I know with Corona and the pandemic, like they had to cut out like a lot of like meet and greets with faculty and things like that. And like you only met someone if they were like directly involved with like whatever class you had that day. So I'm trying to figure out maybe some of that played a part. Like I couldn't meet everyone. Like I think even I told you one of the panels I did, I just met someone else who works in like diversity and inclusion and things like that, and she was even saying like we would have had like a dinner or something like way before like in August or something, before like we all got in classes, if it wasn't for Corona. So it was pretty difficult, but I'll say 50-50. Like I didn't feel like they were completely accessible, but at the same time, like with Corona, um, I don't want to be like, oh yeah, it was the worst time ever.
Yeah. No, that's good to know. I mean, yeah, I'm just I was just curious about that, how your experience,
Mm-hmm.
because I know when you started, I know, again, we going back to just like it's obviously a predominantly white field. And so I was just curious like how easy that was for you to be able to find a mentor,
Mm-hmm.
can
Yeah.
so
Yeah, mentor overall, it wasn't too bad. I think like just a mentor for the research I want to do, because like I'm just very particular about like what I want to find. And I'm like still in my head working out like how this can be like a full-on research project. So like I can think that part was like the difficult part, just finding someone that like has those same interests and then willing to actually sit down and like look at numbers with me and tell me like, is this a viable project or not, you know?
yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you found somebody since we last spoke, so that's good
Yeah.
news. What advice would you give to people who are interested in possibly joining the medical field? Like, what would you say to them? Maybe they're like, it's gonna take too long, or like, it's just too hard. Like, what would
Mhm.
your advice be to those common excuses that we hear?
I mean, the long one, I feel like, I just try to live while I'm in med school. And that's one of the reasons like I signed up to do like your whole program, because I felt like my priorities were just like kind of out of whack. And like I wasn't realizing it, but even with the happiness advantage, he was like, you kind of have to like be happy in the moment. Like the happier you are, the more successful you'll be. So when I think of like, oh, it's gonna be too long, it's like, no, I'll just try to kind of live in between. I kind of try to find like things that make me happy to like squeeze in like while I'm in medical school. So don't worry about how long it's gonna take, because when you're done, you're gonna be a doctor. So
That's
and then other advice, I would just say like reach out to people, like reach out to current medical students, especially people who just got fresh off the application cycle. Ask them about how they study for the MCAT, ask them like why do they apply to certain schools if they're happy at their school. One advice I heard that I wish I had when I was applying, like don't be afraid to call admissions. Like I think because there's such a low acceptance rate into medical school, like you always look at it as like, please let me in. But it's also them courting you a little bit. Like, would you be happy here? Like, come to our school. Like, we want your tuition. So don't be afraid to call and like ask the questions like, do you guys have minority programs? Do you guys work hard for underserved populations? Like, how's your curriculum? Like, is your faculty helpful to your students? So like, don't be afraid to reach out to make sure that school is like the school you want to go to.
Right. That school's going to actually serve you. Yeah, that makes a lot
Mhm.
of sense. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Speaking of enjoying the journey while you're in medical school, I know when we started, this just came to me. I remember, like, you wanting to make some new friends, and during this time of COVID, it's just a weird time, right? So
Mhm.
how are you able to start to make some friends? I know, kind of towards the end, you're like, hey, I'm making some like what so what changed? How are you able to do that in order to just enjoy this process more?
I guess like I know I was really negative about it before. So I guess just kind of being open to everyone, being open when I got in and just like kind of going with the flow a little bit, like realizing like friendships take time. And it's like it feels like simple rules you feel you should have learned in like elementary school. But like when you're super stressed, it's just you forget the simple rules.
Right.
So
Yes.
yeah, just kind of letting things go organically. Like I actually have like two really cool classmates that I study with often that we go out to eat often. We actually just tried this new Thai food restaurant that was like really good.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so just yeah, just kind of taking it one day at a time, not being negative about it. Like, okay, this person didn't work out, but that's not like my whole class. I have
Right.
186 people. So
Yes, exactly. I love that. Yeah, I think, and that just goes back to that rejection again, right? And it's just
mhm,
not letting it completely annihilate you. It's like, okay, that's fine. That one
right,
didn't work out, but it's kind of like dating, I guess. It's all
right, you're lost.
yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, all good. Has nothing to do with what I have to bring to the table. So yeah, I
Mhm.
love that. That's really cool. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of this, your story, your journey, and just what you're working on. It's just so inspiring.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, can we follow your journey? Is there somewhere we like, do you have like an Instagram or something? Or anything you want to leave for people to be able to follow you and just, I don't know, maybe there's somebody who wants to join medical school now, who knows? And they're going to be
I hope so.
messaging. They're like, hey, I actually want to become a doctor.
Oh, please. I love helping people. I love mentoring.
So if you do, if that's you and you're listening and you want to become a doctor, definitely hit up Cerelia, and she's inside this.
Mhm.
So network, use your resources.
Yeah. And it's very doable. Like, I wish I had people who were mentoring me, especially my age, while I was applying. Cause you think, like, I'm not going to get in. Like, it's too hard. Like, only 42% of people get accepted. Like, no, it's very doable.
Yeah,
But I laughed because I have an Instagram, but I don't post.
it's
So,
good. Well, people can find you on Facebook because you're
yeah.
in this group. So
Message me like if you want to like well for anything, but if you want to be a doctor especially, you can message me. Like I always reply. I might take like a little while, but I'll always reply. So
yeah,
yeah, Facebook is probably the best thing because I'm never on Instagram.
it's all good. No, yeah, anything I guess to just be able to get in touch with you because I think some people in this group may be considering going to medical school seriously, and hearing your story and seeing that you're doing it so effortlessly, you're killing it right now. It might
And I
inspire.
took gap years too. So in case like
What's that?
anyone, I took gap years. So like I didn't go straight after college. Like I took some years in between. Cause that's another thing that kind of like hinders people. Like, oh, like did I wait too long? Like, oh, like I just left undergrad for too long. So yeah, no worries. Like if you even have questions about that, like I took gap years.
Oh yeah, yeah, and I'm sure there might be people in their 50s that want to go back to medical school. I'm like,
Mhm.
hey, live your best life. Like it's never too late. So make it do what it does. So yeah. Well, thank you so much, you guys, for tuning in. We are going to wrap this live here. Make sure to tune in next Thursday. I have another live coming your way, another inspiring story. So I hope you guys enjoyed this story today, and definitely reach out to Cerelia if you have any questions about medical school.
Thank you.